You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Boy G, You muted? You're muted.
Boy Gia, did you say?
I think it's boy GI or bomb GI. That is good morning in Portuguese.
Well, I'm going to give you good morning in American. Good morning.
You mean English?
That too. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Andy is on East Coast time, I think.
And you're a little under the weather? The spring is coming, allergies?
It's the voice. Yeah, I don't know. Christine keeps saying it's allergies, so I'm not sure. The house is getting really close to getting done. So I've been over there quite a bit, and it might be that dust too. We'll see, but I'm just going to keep taking my little cough drops and see how it goes.
Woo!
Well, it looks like his voice is fine.
I'm ready to scream and yell at the great deals out there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
It comes and goes with my how much sugar I eat.
You're up and at 'em early today, Andy.
Not really. It's 8. I mean, this is kind of like vacation wake up time.
Yeah. Are you guys doing anything for spring break?
Yeah, I'm taking my whole team to Cancun.
Oh, really? When are you going?
A couple weeks. Yes.
Oh, yeah. There he is. He's getting ready.
Oh, hey, that's actually my garage. That was a theme party. Apparently, we like the fiesta environment.
I was at that one. I was at that party.
We remember, and you made us burn all the pictures that we took of you. So,
well, you had a chef there or something that was awesome.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah, I'm like, we've thought about this for years. There are so many people that are not that far out of your circle that are so talented, and I'm like, you know what? People hire me as a professional to provide service. So I'm like, I'm gonna start hiring other people that I know to, kind of cater and have fun and showcase their business. And that was a fun one. We had authentic Mexican cuisine, as they say, empanadas and nachos and all kinds of really, really cool stuff. So
yeah, no, that was good. So what do we think about the market, Andy? We put on three new listings, and we had 18 offers on them.
Nice.
On the 3, yeah.
I know we've got. I agree with you. I've had a pipeline of people ready to go, and for a variety of reasons. This last week, I didn't bring anybody on until today. I have one coming on today that is in Champlin on the Preserve, and a big, beautiful 2-story. I mean, these guys took meticulous care of this place, and we're listing it at $659, which I think is a steal considering. Right down the street, they're selling for $950, same size house. Obviously a few years newer, but like I said, this house has all brand new Karastan carpets, and I mean, it's amazing. So,
what is that? Does that compete against a new construction segment there at $659?
We do, because we still have some new construction kind of in Dayton, right on the edge of Maple Grove. And please, would you kill the sound? Thanks. And so what happens is when the new go out and they shop during like the parade, and they'll see, wow, look at this big, beautiful house and all the coolest trendy colors and whatever. Once they get over that side of it, they start looking at the numbers, and then they decide, hey, is this something that I want to do? As new construction, you pay more, but it costs you less to carry it because obviously you have, less repairs over the next 15, 20 years. Everything's brand new, right? And under warranty. But on the other hand, it's hard to beat value, and it's hard to beat established, mature areas, nice trees. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and then you start really looking at the lot, just like lake lots, Chris. I mean, on Prior Lake, you can go from 750 to 3 million on the same lake, and the lake lots make a big difference. So same thing on the park. You know, like, what is your view? Are you close to the trails? You know, how do you?
Yeah, imagine if that development was brought to market right now, what those lots would be. Probably twice the amount that the new constructions are on. Because
God, it'd be crazy, right?
Maturity. Maturity is super important to a lot of people. And then there's other things like blinds. You know, I mean, that you get these things that maybe you don't get in new construction. So if you can
just
put a little,
like the carpet. Think about the carpet I just mentioned. These guys went through this whole house and did Karastan carpet. I mean, that's 3 times the price, if not more, than what builders are putting in normally. You know.
yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. So the market is definitely 100% moving and shaking.
What price ranges? I didn't ask you. What price ranges were you in?
269, 499, 775.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like my listings. What are you doing?
Yeah, they were a total of 94,000 94,000 over full price with all of them. So
So we've started to see some troubles with challenges with appraisals, and like I think our team, I don't put up and down like 15 houses this month, and we've had more appraisal challenges now than we've ever had, where it's not that the appraisals are coming in low, but if they're over asking price, they're not raising the price. It's almost like they don't want to repeat what they did last year or whatever. And God forbid anybody's house goes up in value. And so these appraisers are like fighting these, it was listed at 300. They wrote it at 325. They're appraising it for 300. And it's almost like those appraisers shouldn't even be able to see the purchase agreement, because in my opinion, it sways their opinion. And I think it's a big issue, because these banks give these guys basically criteria. This is how you're going to appraise this house. Not just, hey, use your professional opinion based on market conditions, square footage, quality of construction, come up with a value for us and let us know what that is. They don't do it that way. They take a look at the purchase agreement and basically look at their algorithms and say, well, that area really doesn't like anything over 700. So,
But the thing is, for the banks, it's the banks that want the appraisal.
Totally.
It's not about me. So if I'm asking for appraisal, I want it to appraise for what the darn thing's worth.
So maybe
Bank is just trying to justify that it's worth that price.
So kind of what I'm saying is exactly what you're saying, Chris, where indirectly the banks are putting a lot of pressure onto appraisers to make sure that they're not doing this crazy over asking price crap that they've been doing the last couple of years, because a lot of these banks probably feel that things are overinflated and they're not seeing an environment where, hey, we're going to see 20% appreciation this year. We might only see 4%. So they don't want to see these crazy over list price offers.
Another thing I want about the offers, of the 18 offers, guess how many had no inspection out of 18?
5. 1. Okay.
Which is really surprising to me. I mean, that's kind of a big change that everyone's asking. Now they do it in another way. They might say it's real quick. We'll get it done within 3 days. Hey, it's only for big items. We won't ask for anything, under $5,000. But they all have inspections. It's very interesting.
That is interesting, because that's where the consumer is kind of, even though they're out there, they're basically feeling like they're being risk takers right now. Like the whole, we don't know what's going to happen with the economy or interest rates. And so what we're seeing is a direct reflection of that on how they're writing their offers. They're cautiously optimistic. They're still writing offers. They're very weighted to protect the buyer, which is fine. And they're still willing to pay a price because there's 6 other people trying to buy the same house. And so if they want it, unfortunately, they're having to make their offers have to be prettier than the others. And sometimes that means waiving inspections or raising the price or putting a guarantee above appraisal,
All right. Let's go, little Nikki.
Maybe read the bottom.
What's that?
Home sales spike 14.5% in February as the median price drops for the first time in over a decade. So remember, Chris, you and I walk into a bar and our average wealth is $500,000. And then Warren Buffett walks into the bar. Now our median wealth is about $6 billion. So remember, guys, there's highs and there's lows in that. And the median is kind of it's a fancy word for average, right? So median doesn't mean as much to me as it used to, because we're selling more high-end houses now than we ever have. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe what you would say is that's called clickbait.
Yeah.
That little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and sales spiking just means that sales are going back up. So what you and I are talking about is exactly true. People are getting used to the environment we're in, right? They're used to the hot tub being a certain temperature, and they're jumping in, and because they still need houses. Remember, people buy houses based on their needs, not on the interest rates, or otherwise those are kind of like when we were coming out of the housing crisis. There were people that were opportunity buying, no doubt. Probably most of the market for 2009, 10, 11 into 12. There was just great deals coming along, and they'd buy them because it was a great deal to hold it as an investment. But that's not the buyer we're seeing right now. We're seeing buyers that all of a sudden they're having their first baby or their second baby, or they're downsizing, or they need to be on one level, and so they're finally saying enough is enough. We got to make our move because we can't live in the house we're living in anymore, and the market is what the market is. Let's just go.
I concur. That means I agree, Andy.
I was going to Google that real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, what about what I highlighted right there?
Higher mortgage rates have been cooling home prices since last summer. Maybe. And for the first time in 131 consecutive months, nearly 11 years, prices were lower on a year-over-year comparison.
I disagree.
I do too.
I don't think that's the case. Remember, I'm not trying to say the media is not accurate, but I'll tell you, the media spins things and highlights things that make you respond. All they're trying to do is get your blood pumping. They're not trying to give you because it'd be like getting a report card. You're all straight A's, boring, 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 right?
It was interesting of those listings. I mean, everyone was kind of, I don't know, I guess cautiously optimistic. When I talk about marketing and how we're going to do it and what I'm seeing, and everyone was kind of like, okay, are you sure? Are you think this will really happen? And that's funny, like when it does happen, but you got to be in the thick of things. If you're not seeing it every day, because this market shifts really fast. We've got one coming up in Apple Valley
Right.
that we're remodeling, and there's only in the price range we're looking at, it's kind of that 350 to 450 range, and it's like the part that's crazy about it is that I said it's $399 last week. This week I said I would go at $399, but I think we're going to get $425 because everything all of a sudden of the 9 listings in that category, 7 of them are already under inspection. And so there's obviously something happening to that price segment that we can flip and get going. So now it's like everything you can do to get that house done and on the market.
That's great. I think that, that is, so like the pent up energy, right? There's been a lot of people sitting on the sidelines since last June. Rates started, this time last year, rates were at 3%, 3.25%, and now they're at, 6.5-ish, wherever, bumps around 6.5. So they're moving around all the time. So it's a different payment. So people have to get used to what can I get for the amount of money that I can afford to invest. What I really do like, Chris, is the way people are still investing. They're not exceeding themselves. Some people, they're saying, the affordability is off the charts and people are spending a bigger portion of their income. Of course they are. Well, what they're thinking of is the payment went higher. So it's a bigger percentage of their income. But they're still like under 25%, which is totally comfortable. It's totally in line with where you're supposed to be. For the last couple of years, it's been like 14% in some areas in the Twin Cities. 14% of your income goes to your house payment. Those people don't have problems. They lose a job. They have trouble with the economy. Whatever it is in their little world, they're not going to be a failing homeowner, But what is really disturbing to me, and I'll bring this up only because I've seen it recently, the amount of houses that are coming back in the Twin Cities now that percentage-wise is really low, but the way they're hyping and pushing and bragging about the fact that there's all these bank-owned properties. It's disgusting to me. We're still less than like 30% of what our average was over the last 40 years for the amount of foreclosures that are happening right now. But these auction.com and all these other companies are blasting this stuff all over social media like foreclosures are coming, foreclosures are coming. And then what's funny is this, I'll tell you this, you buy a foreclosure, Chris, I bet you pay 10% more than what it's worth in today's market. You want to talk about a rigged system. You got a bank selling an asset that they have to appraise and finance for you. Yeah, it's worth $450.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think too, what's happening with buyers is they're just adjusting to what they're spending money on now.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, well, geez, I'm gonna have to pay $500 more for that house. I'm just not gonna buy the new car that I wanted to go with it to park in that garage. And so they're just adjusting what they're spending money on.
Yeah. What was that? The other day I heard the average car payment in the US is $700 a month.
Wow.
Average.
Wow.
I go, what little Honda do you get that's $700 a month? I'd like to see that Honda. You know what I mean? Because I see more Honda Accords rolling down the road, and I guarantee they can't be $700 a month.
I wonder what interest rates are on cars now. I mean, they got to be pretty
high.
It must be nasty. Holy moly.
Yeah. All right. You want to read this, Chris, or you want me to read it?
I think it is. Elon says it's the most serious looming issue. And what is that, Andy?
Elon Musk warns of defaults of mortgages on commercial real estate. So what he's basically worried about is that a lot of these big notes. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with commercial loans versus residential mortgages are a term loan. They have and you pay it off at the end. Commercial loans are a period of time. So you borrow money from that bank at a period of time. You don't pay it off. They can call the note due if it doesn't hit their conforming standards in their bank, or it throws their books off. So they'll say, you know what, we're going to give you 6 months to get this refinanced with somebody else. And all of a sudden you have to refinance that building. Well, a building that's half full or half empty, however you want to look at it, is probably not going to appraise now for as much. So there's going to be a shortage on equity. So now you're going to see commercial properties potentially having challenges, which is fine. Here's the deal. I'm still in an area, Chris, I don't know if you are too. I'm in an area where I'm seeing commercial buildings going up everywhere. I don't know about you. And I'm talking like little strip malls. I'm talking, we need a Starbucks, or how about this? The new craze right now. Everybody needs to be on an automatic payment on a car wash because you got that $700 a month car. You might as well pay $35 a month and have your drive-through every 5-minute car wash. And so now you're seeing car washes being built everywhere. So it's like, here's the deal. Don't feel sorry for the big boys and the big girls that have money. I don't. But what it has is that it has the overflow to you is that all of a sudden they may not expand their factory, or they may not expand their business. They may decide to contract their business in your area. Hence, you lose jobs. People can't pay mortgages or whatever else. And then that puts pressure on housing too. So that's what I think if you read through the fine print. I really don't feel sorry for these big hedge funds that all of a sudden are going to be short 40% on their investment. They were dumb enough to make the investment. They're dumb enough to, take the loss. So
well, I think too, what they're doing is they're adjusting what the market is saying to them. And I think times like this allow you to tear down a mall and bring in some other, look at like West End in St. Louis Park. I mean, they saw a need, and it was obviously upper bracket rentals. And they lined that freaking freeway in West End with huge apartment buildings the whole way.
There's an apartment across the street that I think would be perfect for you and I, Chris.
Oh,
it literally. So remember where that Good Day Cafe is, where we used to have breakfast? So right next door, they have an apartment that actually has a lazy river.
Really?
I know. I'm like, I wouldn't even have a job. I would go. I'd go down the windows. They crack the ice on this thing so you can start flying.
I remember there's one. What was the one in Uptown that Clark Gasson owned? We did our radio show stuff there, and we had, oh my gosh, right across from Stella's, and it was called. They had a hot tub over the foyer, and then they actually had a bar for all the residents.
Literally over to you swimming.
Yeah, their own bar.
That's awesome. Remember our buddy Nick. Nick had an apartment there.
Yes, that's right.
Nick, Lolo had an apartment there.
Lolo, yeah.
And he goes, I gotta be honest with you. He goes, this is really fun living here, but he goes, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna die. He goes, it's every night. woo, 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 woo.
Yeah.
And even Lolo, who loves to have a great time. God, you follow him on social media. He's fun. He's very into the Zen Namaste, which I really appreciate too.
Yeah.
He's cool, dude. All
Oh
right.
boy. Okay, so that debt's gonna mature, and it's far more than any 5-year. 2.5 trillion in debt will mature. So it's the most in any 5-year period. 60%, 60 to 70% occupied only, and refinancing these loans can be incredibly expensive and likely lead to the next major crisis. What do they do with major crises, Mr.
Bail 'em
President?
out.
And
Bail
just
out.
print more money. They
Well,
print more
but
money.
that's what's happened. Here's the thing. I was reading an article the other day about this where they were talking about like the presidents that were the only presidents in the last like whatever many years that haven't been reelected. And it was because there was fears of a recession that we were heading into when they were trying to be reelected. And right now, same thing's happening to the current administration. And they're talking about them wanting to roll out this huge bailout for commercial real estate, blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to do it because they really can't afford to do it, but they have to do it or they'll never have a shot at getting reelected. So it's really interesting to see at a political level how they're kind of infiltrating down into some of these, local issues. And man, I don't know,
Everything.
man.
Everything is political. Everything that's out there
true.
is political. It's really kind of sad. So
Well, I mean, that's I don't know. I don't even want to get into that stuff because it doesn't matter to me at all. I'm just busy in my little world, working hard and trying to help families and do my own thing, and then take care of my own family, right? But on a bigger scale, they first of all, you're sitting at home right now and you're watching this show, and no offense to us, but who gives a crap about commercial real estate unless it affects you personally?
yeah.
You're not going to default on your loans. You're not over leveraged with a 3,000 unit apartment building and an Edina that's worth.
It does affect it affects your psyche. And
I know, but that's
consumer
because they're
confidence.
promoting that crap, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, I totally agree. But that's the problem is that they're trying to affect everyone. And I think you're exactly right. What people are doing is saying, you know what, just get that noise out of here. Me and my family need to be here. And that's what we need to do. There's not a lot of stuff for sale. And if I'm going to get it, I'm going to have to pay for it. And then that's what they do.
Right.
So, and that's what's been happening. So a lot of the people don't have to be convinced, to be able to move because we don't have many places to move anyways. So
there you go.
All right.
Beautiful. All right, let's get into some social media reacts.
Is Andy on these yet? We're going to find
Every
out.
parent should consider buying a house.
Things I would not do hiring a real estate agent to sell my house. Number 1, no virtual tour. This gives any wacko on the internet access to your floor plan. Number 2, no open houses. Open houses are mainly for realtors to meet other buyers. If someone has a strong opinion, one person will ruin everyone else's opinion on your home.
I got to be honest with you, I disagree.
I don't want to work. Yeah, I mean, you'd be out of business if your models weren't open.
Man, I'll tell you what, people in today's world, you can say whatever you want about these apps, okay? These apps and these virtual tours. What I'll tell you is this. The right part of that segment was virtual tours, 3D tours can help some people because they're out of state and they want to see it and they want to write an offer sight unseen. Your local market, I truly believe it postpones or makes people eliminate your house as an option because now people don't buy on, oh, wow, that's surprising. I didn't know that. They go, oh, that for sure makes me not want to buy this house. Look at that neighborhood. Oh, look at the house to the left, the old one on the virtual tour you do aerial photography, right? And you see that. And so I'm very selective with mine. If I have aerial photography where it shows garbage next to the house, I may not use those photos intentionally, right? Because again, just like that class action lawsuit, which I would love to talk about, where they're suing NAR about, hidden whatever fees. And I'd love to talk about this at some other time. But that is an example of what we do to create hype on these houses and then get people to maybe fall in love with, pay more, or pay at least market value for that house because my best interests are my clients. My client is to sell that house for as much as they can with the best terms we can achieve based on the current market. And it's my job to make sure to expose that house to as many people possible, get people excited and hyped about it, get them to come in and get them so ready to buy. And if they don't have necessarily somebody to let them in the door that day, an open house the day that you list allows people to come with or without their realtors. Not talking about representation at this moment, but just for that moment, they can get their eyes on it and decide, hey, I want to move on this. You're on mute, Chris.
Okay, at a time, I did an open house and on a luxury listing, okay? It was at the time, it was the most expensive house that I'd ever sold. And the seller was like, well, you can't do an open house. It's just gonna be a lot of lookers. And I said, that's exactly, we want those lookers. But what we also want is that looker that's out there that doesn't want to call an agent and say, hey, I want to go set up a showing to go look at this $3 million home, because they're going to get hounded. And so if you give them a way in which to be able to go through relaxing wise and just see if they like it or not, I mean, you might get a buyer. Well, that's exactly what happened at that house. Someone that wasn't even thinking about purchasing ended up purchasing it because they went through the open house. So
dude, it's great. I love open houses. I love the thing that I don't love is falling in conformity with everybody else, where it's like, well, you put this many photos on, you do this kind of a virtual tour, you do a floor plan. Floor plan's mandatory, Andy. And I'm like, listen, if a floor plan's mandatory and they'll go, oh, look at the baby's room is too far away from ours, we're not going to go even look at that house. How many people can visualize? Not many, but they can judge. And so they judge a floor plan, but when they get out there and they start seeing the house, they go, well, this is great. Look at the flow of the hallway. It's great. And they would have eliminated that house based on looking at a floor plan. So a lot of builders will do the same thing, not only for competitive reasons, they don't want their competition getting a copy of their blueprint, but they know that they're eliminating showings. Showings sell houses. You need to get the bodies there to get the offers in. And if there's nobody that's local buying, it's only an international buyer that's going to buy that house, then I'm all for putting everything online. But anyway.
Yeah, same thing. I had one that the sister came and looked at this house that there's no way she could afford it, but she says, I think my brother's looking for it. That brother's turned into one of my, not only bought that house, but he's turned into one of my best clients. So
there you go. And that's because you're out there. I tell you, some of my best relationships I have in real estate were made from being out there. And I say this to young agents all the time. Don't sit back and worry about sending emails and texts and all this clever whatever. Get out. Be alive. Be present. Be there. I mean, help people experience that house when they do a walkthrough. Help them with an open house. Open houses are kind of cool because it gives you a chance to show off a little bit. Like that lady said, well, they're just there to pick up buyers. Of course they are. They're business people. So they're going to use your house to actually meet more people. And who's going to sell that house better than the listing agent? Or somebody on that listing agent's team? Nobody. They're going to be like, did you see this feature? Wow, did you know this is an extra that most other houses in this area don't have? They have the heated tile floors or whatever. And so I don't want to be a jerk and say I completely disagree with that person, but a lot of what they said, there's flaws in. Yeah. And market conditions change every day. So adjust accordingly.
Yeah. And one other thing about that is that the whole adage of my neighbors just want to come in and see it and they just want to be nosy to see how I live. Tell me the next person that's more motivated to have your house sell for the most amount of money other than you. It's your neighbor. You know, if they want the best person in there, they want them to pay the most amount of money because that helps their house and their neighborhood. So,
right. Yeah. No, I'm a big believer in that. I also used to take it one step farther, and I'd have people inviting the neighbors to the open houses. So I'd either use I have a couple of software packages where it'll invite the neighbors. You can do software where it'll call their phone numbers, and it'll say, hey, this is Andy, the listing agent down the street at 1234 Main Street. Wanted to make sure you knew about our open house. So if you know anybody that wants to live in the area, or if you'd like to pick your next neighbor, feel free to bring them in. And we're going to have donuts and beer at 11 to 1 or something weird, because you always want to have something weird that makes them go, oh, what? Right. And then they come in and sure enough, you have donuts and beer and they're like, huh?
True.
Anyway.
I'm retired.
Weird.
And I'm retiring and I want to give you my $1 million house. So thank you, Father, but can you just keep it under your name for now? What? Do you not want the house? Of course I do, but you've owned the house for almost 30 years and the property's value has already appreciated a ton, which means if you transferred it to my name today, I would be responsible for paying all the capital gains tax on all that appreciation when I sell it. So what do I do then? Just put it in a living trust and add me as a beneficiary so that when you pass away after 30 years, I can inherit the property tax-free through the step up in cost basis. Meaning I won't have to pay capital gains tax on any of the appreciation that happened after you bought it, and I won't have to go through probate. Okay, so don't transfer assets to your kid's name and open a trust instead? Exactly, that way we pay no taxes and create generational wealth. Who even told you this? I just follow Milan.
Yeah.
Yeah, something we can't discuss. But yeah, you definitely should be looking at that stuff. We can't give legal or tax advice. And neither
Do
can
you
I.
remember like some of those people back in the day? I know we're not supposed to give advice, but I remember we had guests on that would talk about like every year, like with not necessarily $1 million house, but let's say it's a $350,000 house. And over the next 10 years, you have your parents gifting you the legal maximum, whatever that amount is. And so it transfers slowly the ownership to you so that it is essentially tax free. And, you know, and it depends. You got to pick your accountant because your accountant may say, hey, inheritance tax for you is better than having it put into a trust. And then we have to deal with, you know, your dad charged this property down to zero, you know, I mean, and like, I don't know, there's a lot of variables there that I really highly recommend that if you're going to get into strategizing about generational wealth, you should really consult a professional.
For sure.
Don't listen to somebody on TikTok. No offense to us. Must have a lot of enemies, huh?
Yeah.
All those hidden doors.
Yeah. That is, I mean, there's some neat places that would be nice to be able to afford that.
You remember the old Murphy beds that they used to sell back in the day? So that same company now makes like Murphy doors, and they're like bookcases that open in and kind of that Scooby-Doo hidden, you know, room in the house or whatever. It's kind of fun.
I'm doing one right now, and I'm now thinking about just making it a cased opening instead, because there's so many options, but sometimes they just, I don't know. It's kind of like,
what I worry about is the kids, right? So the little kid that wants to show their friend, hey, look, we have a secret room, and they slam that huge bookcase open, or you know what I mean? Unless it was like pneumatic or something where it actually you hit a button and it goes, I don't know if it would work.
well, they have them. They're all on. I mean, it's crazy what you can get now, but they're not inexpensive. I'll tell you that. So.
No. But I wouldn't put it on a room that I'd go into a lot. Like if I had like a hunting room or something like that, where I'm in there, you know, by myself or doing whatever, cleaning ammo, whatever you do, you know, yeah. And then it might be fun to have a hidden room because then it just takes the mystique or the mystery out of what's in there, you know, versus like I've got a listing coming where they have a very cool hobby room and they don't want people in there until they do their second showing. Totally understand. Lots of valuable things in there, lots of whatever. And they just, but people want to know what's behind the door. I mean, they made a whole game show about it. Think about it. So if they don't know the door is there, then they don't care.
Awesome. Hey, we got a brand new segment, Agent MD with Chris Rooney. So it's going to be brought to you by Chris Rooney Home Experts.
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
What do you think of me being the doctor, Andy?
I thought we were going to talk about your voice. Your
I know it's my Barry White voice. I can sing for you too. But yeah,
Well,
I've lost my voice for quite a while.
Well,
It happens.
yeah,
All right,
worse things
so
happen.
the first thing, we're just kind of starting a new segment. Andy and I are doing it together. I'm just kind of leading it out. But the idea is to be able to help our listeners, which are a lot of them are realtors. And the first one we're going to start with is beginning agent mistakes, because agents that make mistakes that can affect the rest of their career, it happens early on because most licensees don't even make it a year. And if you can make it 3 years, you can probably go after that, but it's not an easy place in which to be able to make a living. So our first one, they don't do training. Okay. And what I mean by training is that it's not, I mean, it could involve some sitting on a computer, but actually training and doing the things that you need to do, get out there and do it live. So it's sitting at an open house with Andy Prasky. It's sitting at an open house with Chris Rooney. It's showing a house, with me. It's doing a market analysis. It's real life type things that you need to be able to do. And people just don't do it. They don't take the time. All they're worried about is, I better get a client because I got to get a sale. And if I don't get a sale, I'm not going to be able to stay in the business. But you're never, ever going to be able to, last in this business unless you do a lot of training. So,
well, like the analogy I gave the other day, we were talking with our team, and there's some agents with lots of experience, some agents that are a couple years into the business. And one thing that I always use the example of, so like with the Final Four going on now, and I say, think about being a basketball player, and it comes down to where you now are on national television, you're on the biggest spotlight you've ever been on, and you have to go shoot a free throw. And you go up there, and if you've never practiced, you're just like, I hope this works out. And you shoot a free throw and you miss the backboard. Embarrassment, whatever. People are like, how did that guy miss that free throw? You've heard it. We've all sat around the room like, what the hell? How did that guy miss that? Right? Practice. You have to practice. You have to sit in your driveway and shoot 3,000 free throws a month. And eventually you turn into an athlete. And then as a coach, your coach gives you techniques. You keep practicing and practicing. Now, real estate, what's different? I don't think there's anything different. You have to practice everything from what you say to people. I think the most important mistake most new agents make is they do an open house and they're, hi folks, how you doing today? Here's my card. I'm a realtor. Let me know if you have any questions. I go, well, why would you waste that opportunity meeting someone saying, hey guys, my name is Andy. I'm with Remax. Super excited. My broker's got some new cutting edge tools. We're doing some really fun stuff. I'd love to show you sometime. Here's a card, stick it in there. If you ever want to sell or buy a house, let me show you what we've got, right? Totally different approach to things. So it's like, but if you don't have that on the tip of your tongue, or you don't practice like, hey, what am I going to say to people when this happens? Or what do I say to a seller or a buyer when this happens? I honestly think, like you're saying, the training and practicing of scripts and negotiating and everything else is very important.
Yeah, and it does. It leads into the next one. And that is, new agents don't invest in their education and learn. Today, with the new advent of electronic signatures, has now taught realtors that they don't even have to know what the purchase agreement says. They have to fill out a few little different spots, and all of a sudden the purchase agreement's done, it gets signed. But that's a problem later on. And like Andy's example of sitting in an open house and all these new exciting things you do, you got to be able to give some examples and tell people that might be one that these people want to start talking about things, that you need to bring up agency relationships in a real estate transaction. If you don't know what that is, or you can't capture it in kind of a quick 1 minute little thing to be able to tell them, it just is, it's pretty sad, because you can tell an agent right away. And our rules state that at first substantive contact that we have with someone, we have to explain what real estate agency is in a transaction.
And for a real quick second, why wouldn't you want them to do that? So people,
right.
I'm not looking to get involved.
Like it.
I don't want to commit to nothing. But I'm like, cool. well, then you really need to hear what I have to say because this is important. It's how you protect yourself. And
it's the law.
Well, right. But I remember this. Now, would you not rather have real estate agents perform at a higher standard, be ethical, be looking out for consumers and protecting consumers, or do you want to be sneaky, slimy, and that whole sneak? We're going to sneak in the house and not tell anybody, and maybe we'll get this guy paid or that person paid a commission or not. I mean, come on. So what it comes down to is this: if you have an agent and the agent's working an open house, like Chris said, disclosing or what they have, it's called an acknowledgement, right? So you acknowledge the different ways that you can be represented by a real estate agent. And all you're doing is saying, hey, did you know? And then if you read the fine print, it does say that even if you're unrepresented right now, I'll treat you as a customer until you decide what form of representation you choose to enter into. It doesn't just sit there and say, you got to commit to me. It's saying that, hey, you understand that right now you're not represented and you have options. But people don't present it correctly. People say, I need you to sign this before I can talk to you. And it's like, just explain it fluffier.
It's a disclosure. Exactly.
Yep. If you want a brochure, if you want any information from the open house, if you want me to tell you what I'm allowed to tell you, go ahead and take a packet, sign this right here, saying that you were here, and acknowledge it and move on. And it's that simple. You're not committing to anything.
Hiring a coach, Andy.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't do that because it costs them money. But I'll tell you what, the people that I've seen can hire a coach, Andy is one of them that's hired a coach. And we've got a couple agents in our office. Mm-hmm. You can tell the difference.
Oh, yeah.
How much money they're making, and it's holding you accountable. So even if it's your spouse that becomes your coach and helps you be accountable to what you're supposed to be doing, it's a lot better to have maybe an agent. But it's a very important thing to be able to do and to kind of keep you in that path to get to where you want to be.
I think every professional in the industry, and I always go back to sports because that's what people seem to love is live sports and seeing that authentic moment. And usually even from the caddies to the whoever, there's a coach there. There's somebody guiding them into their excellence. And the thing is that you're the star player, but sometimes you have all the tools, but you don't know what to do with them. So that coach is going to, point you in the right direction to make sure, hey, use this tool for this, use that tool for that, and go hard. And you build that relationship where you get that wisdom put behind your energy and your talent, and all of a sudden you become an all-star.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one is that they don't practice. And that's the thing is I always tell people, I mean, Andy's great analogy with the basketball player. It was perfect, but it's with agents, it's always like, you don't want the first purchase agreement to be the real one. And so you need to practice that and practice it with another agent or someone at your house. We used to always do that with our agents, and you do it over and over and over again. I remember the first time I did a purchase agreement. I was in the business. I lost my first two buyers, which are both good friends of mine. They both purchased a house. Their parents kind of pushed them to go with someone that was more experienced. And so they ended up buying it. And I kind of got left out in the rain per se. And I went and I just said, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I got to know more than these other people because they were obviously older than me. So I trained and I practiced and I listened to all this stuff. But I didn't really go in front of other people and start reading it. So I would do it on the computer. We didn't have a computer at that time, but books and tapes. And I'd read, but I didn't take it and go over the purchase agreement with my dad per se. And I'll never forget the first purchase agreement. The person comes up to me at an open house, and they said they were of Asian and they couldn't talk a lot. And they said, "You have paper? We write offer." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" I had no idea what to even do, so I had to call my dad and bring him in. And so then after that, I started, writing it out and talking about it. But people don't do that anymore. They need to be able to. You got to get out there and practice. You got to go open lock boxes. You don't want to go out to the first house you show and you can't get in the lockbox because you don't know how it works.
I have a story about that. This happened to me, I should say, a couple of months ago. And I had a guy that said, "Oh, you realtors, all you have to do is learn how to open up a lockbox." And of course, I think that's funny because I agree, and I think it's funny. And we laugh. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, we're sitting there and we're getting their house ready to go on the market. And he calls me, goes, I can't figure out how to lock this lockbox. And oh my God, I was like, I wish I would have had my tape recorder or something, or my phone to record it. And he goes, yeah, he goes, it just won't stay put. It won't unlock. And then I go, okay, step by step. I go, put this on and lock it. Put that in and plug the numbers. Pull the thing down. Stick it in there. And all of a sudden, it was actually, to the both of us, we were laughing so hard. It was great.
So you do need to be licensed. So
it's part of our training. For 2 weeks, we just open lock boxes. Know that.
But the idea with real estate is you got to know what the heck you're talking about. If you
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about, you're never going to be able to get to the upper echelon of sales. It's just going to be a part-time hobby for you.
Yeah, over the years, I've had this kind of strict rule where I say, hey, if you're going to be on the team, and I'll say, take the house you live in right now. I want you to write a purchase agreement for me on that house after you present me with a market analysis. So present me the market analysis, show me the data, sell me on why you're going to be, a listing presentation, market analysis. And then I'm like, now write an offer on it. So I kind of do it in sequence. And then it's interesting to me to see how people write stuff and how they misinterpret sometimes forms and misinterpret, well, what are they really trying to get out of it? What's the gist of this, statement? So,
yeah. So agents, if you want to learn, Mr. Rooney here is coming up with he's coming back with integrity marketing. I started that right at the start of COVID.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, we're going to hold on and see what it is, but I'm coming back. So I'm kind of being able to help people. But if you want to be under someone that will teach you every day and be on a team, that would be Mr. Andy Prasky with the Preferred Home Team.
Why? Thank you for that segue, Chris. No, that's true though. I mean, it's a case of where, I've always looked at this. I don't know about you, Chris, but where you have the opportunity to shadow somebody that's in the business. And I didn't have that option when I got in. I just was like, you're a real estate agent. Here's the real estate book on the counter. Go sell stuff. Don't get me sued is what my broker used to always say. And we would laugh about that, right? So now, why would you join a team? Why do teams exist? Teams exist because there's people that have collective common thoughts that, or industries or segments of the industry that they focus on. And the similarities, they have the tools that help thrive in those environments. And then these teams create these like hyper focused kind of, if you will, sometimes, not always, but hyper focused, group on being really well at a few things or a few areas or whatever. And they're not the catch-all to everybody because that doesn't work. We've all found that out over the years, but you get into these niches, you learn how to, actually dig into those, get into those areas, get some business going. You actually get to experience sales. You get to experience, and that's what a team will do for you, is get you going fast. Now, if you're naturally, organically talented and you get going, a lot of people do this too. They'll get going and then they start failing. They get going really fast and mom and the uncle and the cousin all buy with them and sell with them, and then they got nothing. And so they run out of luck. And that's where a lot of people also join teams, because now you join the team to learn how to market and learn how to get your brand out there and get people excited about what you bring to the table. So they hire you instead of the other 19,000 real estate agents that are available in the Twin Cities.
And if you join Andy's team, you get to party with this guy.
We hit it pretty hard. We have fun.
It's amazing partying with a guy that won't drink with you, but it's like he's drunk all the time. So you can totally enjoy him.
Hey, I like happy hours. I'm just curious. So Nick, where are you at today? You got kind of a marble background there.
I'm back in that little resort I was staying in the previous weeks. So I'm in the cafeteria right now where the Wi-Fi's at.
Where the fans are cranking and.
Yeah, no AC over here.
Wow.
Here we go. I got our real estate agent wants to buy our house. We need advice, and here is the rest of the information.
All right, it's an off-market deal. They haven't put it on the market. The house will not be listed. The agent acted as our buying agent for this house 2 years ago, and the offer price is at market value, and they're charging a 6% commission. Do they want to know what's wrong with that? Is that the story?
If it's a good deal, or should they get a different agent to make this deal, etc.
I think that's up to them individually, but I mean, if it is at market value, and that's what they would sell it for on the open market, and it frees you from worrying about it closing, getting it ready for showings and all that. But depending what market you're in, if you're in our market, and depending what price you are, and what updates you need to do, it might be better to go live on the market. I mean, I do it almost at every listing. I'll tell people that I would pay you this, but obviously I'm going to get my commission off of that. So it's 300, but I'm going to pay you whatever 280, 282, we'll say, and then you're free to go. But I think you should put it on the market, because if we price it at 299.9, you might get 320, 325. So we have to do that as agents. We got to make sure that people know.
Oh, everybody caught that. You're jumping in and out, Chris.
Oh, sorry.
Your voice is cutting in and out there.
Andy, anyway. I'm hearing it. I think you were lagging a little bit. I heard the whole thing. It's good.
Oh, did you?
Andy's cutting out. It's Champlin internet. This is the stuff that happens. This Champlin stuff. I'm telling you.
So I paid my bill a couple days late.
Andy,
big deal.
Andy, redial in with your push button phone. Redial so you get your
AOL
internet.
Isn't what it used to be, Chris. It just isn't.
It's not. So, but what I was basically saying is that it depends on your agent should tell you the facts, and we have to tell the facts all the time. We have to tell them exactly that. Hey, I think you'll make more, and we have to write on a purchase agreement and then write it 5 more times by the end. So,
yeah, I think that's a fair analogy, but I also think that as that real estate agent coming in there asking 6%, that's basically like for full marketing services. And I don't charge full 6% if I'm not doing marketing services. So if they're selling it at a fair price, then you should give them a fair commission as well. And generally, if you're representing yourself as a buyer, I don't see that being worth more than 3% or whatever. So if I were them, I would counter back with and say, yeah, we'll sell it at that price if that's a fair price, but we're going to pay you a 3% commission instead of 6%. So that's how they could counter that. Or say, you know what, we'll take your offer into consideration. We're going to list our house on the MLS, and we're going to do it for, this many days. But here's the problem. That agent will probably want to list that house as well. So now you have to bring in another agent, and then they're not going to get the deal because now there's another agent involved. So I don't know. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, I think that if they're paying you a fair market value, they should get a fair market what the commission is. And I think everything's negotiable, because if I'm a realtor, I'm typically not buying anything at fair market value. You know what I mean? I'm usually trying to get a deal. So yeah. And the thing is, I think the idea of buying, they might be buying it for themselves, but if they're buying it to kind of relieve that person of stress, or they're buying another house, they're probably figured in, well, I know I can sell for 300. I'll be able to get it out. I got to pay another person a commission. And it just basically gets them out with a listing commission on it. So,
okay. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Guys, I know you guys are, I do got a couple closings. I'm going to try to hang in here as long as I can. So those are things when you get paid, Andy, when they close, the house is closed. And then that's.
Wow. Thank you for enlightening me.
Just saying.
Do I need to pull my numbers out again, Chris?
Do it.
That's funny.
Hey, Andy, got a question here.
Okay.
Bring this up. The mortgage rates have been skyrocketing recently. It's about 6 to 7%, but these rates seem more in line with the average interest rates before 2008. So what is the difference between this? What made interest rates so low between 2008 and now?
Normal appreciation versus like appreciation on steroids. So the appreciation that we've experienced the last couple of years has brought house prices to new highs that they've never seen before. So back in 2008, you probably had an average sale price of $170,000 in the Twin Cities, and now it's pushing over 300. So it's like the numbers are, and in reality, the markets I work in, it went from an average sale used to be probably 400 Now it's over 7. It's kind of the average. So it's really crazy, but that's kind of the average home buyer that I'm seeing. So you get into those kind of prices, and those mortgages are pretty significant. I mean, if you're not putting a bunch down. So, but what I am seeing now, which is really interesting, Nick, is that the interest rates are higher, the prices are higher, but I'm seeing people put more money down because they're selling their houses with higher, equities. And so they have more money to put down, and they're not blowing the money. The difference is in 2004, 5, 6, people were using their houses as cash machines. So they'd appreciate $100,000. They'd refinance their house. They'd go buy a ski boat. And we were seeing a ton of that going on. So, or whatever, back, I don't even think they had ski boats back then, but they'd go out and buy an RV or buy a Corvette or whatever it was at the time, blow the money. And then they use their house at that appreciation as a cash cow, thinking it was going to keep going up and up and up. And then over the years, all of a sudden the housing didn't keep up with it. And all of a sudden they owed more than what it was worth. And that's where at a federal tax level, I know I'm kind of getting off track here, but that's where at a federal tax level, that loss, they were going after a lot of people for a long time because they were like, hey, you've got 4 Corvettes and you foreclosed on your house and you used all the money, the equity in your house, which you could have clearly conservatively kept and got out of that mess. But you have 3 Corvettes and now we have to take a loss as a bank. So the banks were not obviously very excited about that. So.
Beautiful. We got a couple more questions from Greg. I'm glad to see him back.
Oh yeah. Well, Greg and I will probably be bumping into each other up in the actually, this is kind of funny. I've got this is where Greg likes to hang out. The 22 Northman Brewing and Alex, my favorite coffee mug.
His first question is, what color of kitchen appliances are hot right now, Andy?
Smoky stainless steel. So it looks like a dark, just like it sounds, darker stainless. And it's actually paint, which is kind of cool because then you can still have the magnets stick to it, right? Can a house be overstaged and not look homey? For sure. I think that some houses are, especially builders models will do houses where we actually overdo them. They're a little bit over the top to really accentuate the use of that room. So formal dining, they do all the, chargers and all the other, 3 plates deep and the wine glasses, and it's over the top. You'd never probably have that in your own house sitting there, but they'll do it over the top. And it does make it, but they're really trying to emphasize, hey, are you an entertainer? Or hey, the home theater, they go overboard on the home theater, that kind of stuff where they're just really trying to make they're fighting for your attention. So when you go through these open houses, the staging is really, they're fighting for there's only so much space in your head that you can absorb in that house. And they're trying to give you things that you walk away from and say, remember that room that had that's what good staging does. You're on mute there, Nick, by the way.
Yeah, they got a little noise going on in the background here. Oh. But what does the 10-year cycle of real estate mean, Andy?
A 10-year cycle? Well, that's kind of they're just saying that business, like we just talked about, interest rates and appreciation, and they fight along. And now you throw into the max income, and then income and interest rates or appreciation have to float together. Otherwise, the ratios get off, and then you see a dip and you see a plunge and that's what they're talking about. So it seems to go up and down over the years, not necessarily with appreciation, but the volume of the business or and sometimes it does take the prices down with it. But for the most part, it's just the ebbs and the flows of the industry seems to go in about a 10-year cycle.
Beautiful. Anything exciting this week, Andy, you want to let the listeners know about?
Well, how much time do I have?
I'd say a couple minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So, what's interesting is there was a survey. I just read this survey from National Associations of Realtors, and they surveyed real estate agents, and they said, what are these people that are thinking about selling in the spring? What are their number one things that they're doing for home improvements? And just from a competitive perspective, I thought this was really interesting to hear. So there's a couple of things that were being done very frequently. So 6% of the sellers that were out there said it was important to them to actually do caulking around all their countertops, their bathtubs, so there's no cracking. It doesn't look like it's half in and half out, broken off. They re-caulk everything to make it look fresh. Gives an illusion of maintenance. Right behind them was replacing grout or cleaning grout. 6% were doing that. Major things being done. 8% of the people were working on their HVAC and their hot water heaters, making sure that the new buyer came in. They didn't leave a 30-year-old furnace in there. They were putting a new one, just as a gesture of we're taking care of the house that's been updated. Replacing the roof, 9%. I had replacing appliances at 11%, which was pretty shockingly high. Full painting of the exterior was 12%. Full painting of the interior was 12%. Touch-up paint was 12%, so pretty even there. And then lastly, 13% of the people were going to update their exterior landscaping, mulch, vegetation, trim their trees and their shrubs, and make that curb appeal as beautiful as they can to get those people in the door. So those are some of the top things that your competition out there is doing to get their houses ready to sell in the spring. A little hard with snow on it, but
Beautiful. All right, Andy. Awesome. Let's click our link tree. I can see who all clicks it. They're not exactly the names, but where they go. We have our websites on there. We have our YouTube, the Facebook. We're posting short clips now all the time, so they're really engageable. Write a review for us, and then send in your questions. Andy, I hope you have a great day. And
you too, man. Enjoy that cafeteria. It looks great.
Yeah, we have lunchtime pretty soon. So,
all right.
All right, buddy. Ciao, ciao.
See you later. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.